What is up, guys? I'm Kyle at Fortune. In this video, we're trying to fix some overheating issues we're having with the Samurai, and we're also trying to get a little bit more heat inside the Samurai. You're not going to believe what we find inside this heater box, so stay tuned. So as you can see, fall is upon us, winter is coming, as the Starks say, and the Samurai is having two issues right now. They're gonna make our next trail run not very fun. If you remember our trail ride from a few months ago, it was Strawberry Pass. We took the Samurai up and we're wheeling through the trail. It's a very easy trail, just has some steep grades, but the Samurai was having a really hard time with overheating. I had to pull over and pop the hood several times. I didn't know what was going on. And then on top of that, we have a separate issue where the heater has just never worked since I've had the Samurai, and I have some ideas how to fix that too. But the first thing we need to do is replace some parts and figure out what is going on with the cooling system. I've kind of just been tinkering with the Samurai every now and then after work or on the weekends, trying to figure out what could be causing these overheating issues. And the things that are really coming to my mind that I should look at are a bad thermostat, some bad routing through whatever the cooling items are, and also a bad fan clutch to cool down the radiator. So all three of those are pretty inexpensive fixes, so I'm just going to go ahead and replace all of them, starting with the fan clutch. All right, so what we're gonna do here is we're waiting for the Samurai to get up to temperature. What I'm gonna do is I've got an old piece of just some rubber heater hose, and I'm just gonna put it up against the fan blade, and if it stops pretty easily, then we'll know the clutch is bad and needs to be replaced. Seen some people do this with their fingers. Definitely wouldn't recommend that. Do not throw your fingers on your fan blade. All right, so that wasn't great. Definitely wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be, but that tube stopped the fan pretty easily. So we're just gonna go ahead and replace it, and then we're gonna start driving it around and see if that helps with the problem. So these fan clutches are actually a really cool piece of technology. It's super old school, but it was a great idea. Basically, there's a spring inside that clutch that changes its stiffness based on the temperature. If that spring is all the way worn out, then that fan just isn't gonna spin. And when I was testing mine out, I saw that, yeah, it's pretty worn out. Already, I can actually feel some air coming off of this fan. I didn't even realize it, but before, it wasn't really pushing any air, it's kind of just spinning. So here's the thermostat we're using. This is the fail-safe 180 thermostat. So the part number is right there, 7240180. And the cool thing about these ones is that when they fail in the open position, which is pretty cool. But once they do fail, it says right there, it's got to be replaced because it's going to be stuck in the open position. But I think my current one is actually failed in the closed position, maybe halfway or a quarter or something. I just don't think it's getting enough water through. So it's going to take that out, and we'll have to put a new gasket maker on there. So when you're figuring out which way your thermostat goes back in, if yours pops out like mine did, just remember this part right here always goes up. If you're in a different car, this part always faces the radiator hose. So whatever part is going to the radiator, this is the point that goes towards that hose. So another thing on this one, you can see it's got a jiggle pin right here, I believe is what they call them. This pin assists air in escaping when you're trying to bleed the air out of your cooling system. So what they normally say is if you're putting it in like this, that would go at the 12 o'clock or north. In this case, ours is sitting horizontal like this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna position that jiggle pin to where it's pointed towards the radiator hose. Here's the gasket maker we're going to be using by Permatex. This is the Ultra Blue, and really what this is supposed to be is just a really good all-purpose gasket maker. You can see right there, the temperature range is minus 65 Fahrenheit to 500, so definitely enough temperature for something like a water pump or a thermostat gasket. What this says to do is to throw our new parts on there, and then we'll go down till it's about finger tight and the silicone starts coming out the sides. Then we'll tighten it all the way 24 hours for a full cure. I'm going to throw some of this anti-seize lubricant on the bolts because they were a little bit tricky to get out. got her on there finger tight. We're gonna give this 1 hour to put a skin on it, and then we'll tighten them down, and then we'll have to wait 24 hours before we can, you know, start using it and driving the Samurai and all that. So here's our next thing to fix. If you remember when we did the propane swap, we ended up bypassing all the heater stuff. So it's this valve right here, and then those has to have the hoses come in and out so that heater can get that heat. Finally getting some cooler weather here. We're getting ready to do some snow runs. We definitely want to have that heater working. So there's the first hose, goes from the valve into the passenger side. Now we've got the second hose coming out of the regulator and up into the valve here. And then this last hose is coming out of the driver's side and going back into the engine. So those are our 3 connections that we had to replace there. Now it's time to torque down the top of the thermostat housing. It looks like we've got all of our connections on here, and we've got our housing torqued down, so that's ready to go. What we need to do now for this part is wait 24 hours for that RTV to cure, and then we can fill this baby back up with coolant. There's not much left in there. Got this gasket all cured up. It's been sitting for about 2 days now. Time to add some coolant in here, and then we'll seal everything up and try to get it started to get that stuff circulating around. Then we're gonna head into the Samurai and start getting that heater cleaned out. Here is our heater assembly down here, and you can see this bottom part that's like a big rectangle. That is our heater core, so we've got to be really careful not to drill into that. We can take this piece off right here. This is where we're going to drill in right here. So I'm going to be using a 1-inch hole saw to get in there, but the important thing is that you have the right size plug to put in there. So I have some 1-inch plugs. If you have the heater box out, you could even go up there, but that kind of defeats the purpose of cleaning it out while it's still in. This way we don't have to disassemble it. So I'm just going to mark a little hole right here. We're going to drill it. We're going to vacuum everything out, and then I'm probably going to put some air maybe down here somewhere in there to just blow all those leaves and whatnot around. So you can see that didn't take very much to drill into it. And right away we can see some grass. There's like a nest in there. Hopefully there's not like an entire dead rat in there, because that'd be kind of hard to clean out. But it's time to start pulling that stuff out and vacuuming. Something had a grand old time living in the Samurai. Like, there are these little acorns hidden everywhere. Like, the hood is like one of those rain dancer sticks. It just sounds like acorns going up and down every time I open and close it. One of these days I'm gonna have to cut a hole in that and get those out too. There it is. One dead little mouse right there. Hopefully it's not a whole family of them. That's kind of gross. Well, we got a lot of stuff out of there. This is all what I pulled out by hand, including our friend Mr. Mouse there. And then all of this junk. So my hand for reference, there's a lot in there. I bet you there's still a bunch in there. I just can't get it out. I blew a lot of compressed air in there, and you can see it. This is all what came out of the vents afterwards. The hole's all nice and cleaned up, and we've got our 1-inch plug in there, and it fits great, just snapped right into place. Throw this guy back on. All right, and let's see if we can get some heater action. So it doesn't work all the way up for whatever reason. It works in the rest. This is supposed to be the defroster right here. I don't feel a whole lot. A lot of air coming out of here though. All right, so we've got the heater box mostly cleared out. You can see the remnants of everything that kind of blew out of the vents when we were finished. So that's the hole we had originally drilled. And then this is another one. You can see they're kind of on 2 different angles. One's 90 degrees off from this one. So the cool thing about that is when you do this one, you are kind of limited with the amount of room that you have to work with. You know, you have to take this hose off and everything. It's just a really tight space to get in there, and you can't really see through there either. So I ended up drilling another hole right here. I just put my fingers in there and felt that there was nothing blocking right here, and then I drilled that additional hole. And the way that I did it is I used that 1-inch clear tubing, and I was able to really get in the cracks with that, and it's soft, you know, so it's not going to hurt the fins, but it still wasn't enough to get all this little stuff out of there. I decided to get a long flathead screwdriver and very gently just kind of moved it around. Once I could pop it loose, the vacuum was able to pull it up. So now that everything's cleaned out and we're driving the Samurai around, you can see Yeah, that fan blower is working. We've got heat coming out. The defroster is still a little weak, but just driving it around and turning this on, it's definitely working a lot better. So really excited to have some heat out on the trail finally. So after taking it around on that little test drive, I did see that my regulator just got super cold. It was all frosted over, and it's kind of like, what was going on there? Obviously, there's some kind of restriction in the coolant flow. It just wasn't flowing through. And this valve right here was the issue. So I plumbed everything through this valve to go in there, and it completes one loop, right? So it has to go through that valve. I figured, you know what, I can just play with that valve from inside the Samurai, so when I want the engine to heat up faster, maybe I could just restrict that coolant, and then when it's time to have the Samurai run cooler, I can just open that thing up. It wasn't working. I put some PB blaster all over it, and it still didn't break loose. I mean, it's pretty tight. It doesn't work that well from the inside, and I said, you know what, I don't even really need the valve. So I just bypassed it, and we go straight into the heater core and then back into the engine. So really my only concern with that is that heater core just gonna radiate heat all the time, or does the blower need to be on pushing that heat out to really feel it? In the summertime, it gets so hot around here, I don't want to be putting any extra heat into the cab. So I guess we'll just kind of figure that out as we go. I mean, this isn't a permanent thing. This hose is really cheap. It's like $1 per foot from Ace Hardware. So we can just keep messing with this cooling. But right now it is so awesome because I can feel that heat down on my feet. And more importantly, we can get that defroster going up on the windshield, because you know, when it's cold out and it gets all foggy up there, you can't see anything. That's no way to wheel. Hopefully we're getting ready to go do some snow trips soon. So yeah, these were 3 really easy mods that we did. And I won't even say they're really a mod. They're just kind of like a refresher, upgrade, routine maintenance, whatever you want to call it. Really crazy seeing that mouse in the heater box. I had a feeling there was going to be something weird in there. And yeah, a little gross too. We're going to have to do some deep cleaning of the Samurai, so we're not in there breathing in a bunch of mouse guts. Really beneficial thing to do for your Samurai to make sure that it's not running so hot. And also in the inside, it is running hot, right? So you can get the heat down in the engine and then get the heat on the inside up. It's perfect for winter time. Really looking forward to our next trail run. Guys, if you have any tips or anything I might have missed, make sure you put it down in the comments so somebody else watching this doesn't make the same mistakes I did. Thanks for watching our video. See you guys next time.